The recently released docuseries Tiger King now holds the record for the most watched show on Netflix, showcasing the life of an Oklahoma man running a zoo in his own backyard. But that zoo has a connection to the heart of Illinois. Joe Exotic illegally sold animals to a small zoo in Fulton County. While investigating Brown's Oak Ridge Zoo, I learned they have their own resume of violations, showing what life is like for animals at roadside zoos. In the midst of a global pandemic that's keeping people inside their homes, Netflix releases a docuseries with a behind-the-scenes look at roadside zoos. At the center of the series is Joe Exotic, an Oklahoma man that spent the last 20 years breeding big cats and will spend the next 22 in prison.
Gentlemen, my name's Joe Exotic and this is Sarge.
Named in 4 of his charges, Brown's Oak Ridge Zoo in Smithfield, a small village in Fulton County. Now, the 8-episode series pays large attention to Joe's plot to kill his rival, Carol Baskin.
Hey, all you cool cats and kittens, it's
But
Carol.
those acts were part of just 4 charges that would send Joe to prison. The other 17, all animal welfare violations. Animal advocates say the series missed the mark on animal cruelty.
I think the message is lost.
No, Tiger King failed miserably to cover the issues related to the cub petting and animal welfare.
Counts 9 through 11 against Joe Exotic are for violations of the Endangered Species Act, 2 of which were for selling tiger cubs to Brown's Oak Ridge Zoo in 2016 and 2018. That federal law makes it illegal to sell, buy, or transport any endangered or threatened species, like tigers.
He alluded to in Tiger King that a tiger can go for $2,000. So that motivates the breeders to churn out these cubs and go to places like Brown's Oak Ridge Zoo where they use them in lucrative photo ops.
But in order to make these sales, Joe Exotic had to lie. In counts 12 through 20, he was found guilty of falsifying documents to make it look like young cubs were donated, not sold. That was the case for 2 listed cubs sold to Brown's. But PETA reports the Fulton County Zoo has gotten other animals from Joe as well.
These are cougars.
And despite being named in the indictment 4 times, an official with the U.S. District Court tells me neither Ivan nor Nancy Brown, the owner of Brown's Oak Ridge Zoo, testified in the trial. And the animal welfare violations go far beyond Joe Exotic's indictment. Brown's Oak Ridge Zoo has their own resume of citations. Since 2002, Brown's has been cited more than 50 times by the Department of Agriculture.
They were cited actually for not even notifying a veterinarian to a wolf who was so skinny that his bones were visibly protruding.
They were fined $3,500 a few years ago for failure to provide veterinary care to a kangaroo with a broken leg who subsequently died. In 2017, they were cited for a critical violation of failing to provide veterinary care to a tiger who had been sick for several days and was found dead. And then just a couple months ago, they were cited for another critical violation after a lemur bit a patron on a hand during a close encounter.
But animal groups say the USDA doesn't do enough to stop violators, which leads to further cruelty as these facilities rarely get shut down.
And the USDA actually has really poor enforcement record. So they don't always enforce the animal welfare violations that, you know, are apparent.
It's very rare that the USDA does anything other than cite a facility.
The USDA declined an interview, but instead answered questions via email. A representative told me that while the department does issue fines and cease and desist orders, if an exhibitor loses their license for violations, they still get to keep their animals. After the reported lemur bite at Brown's, the owners told the USDA the lemur would no longer be included in animal encounters. But it's those private encounters that animal groups shame the most, saying cub petting practices are a money grab for owners and traumatizing for tigers.
For the first few months, they're completely dependent on their mothers. Exhibitors who breed them and use them in cub petting ventures disregard that need entirely.
At Brown's, $20 would get you a picture with the cub, but not anymore. The owners say after fallout from the series, they're closing the zoo. They say they've even received death threats. They denied a formal interview, but they defended Joe and their zoo, saying they love the animals like they're their own children. It's unclear if and when their animals will leave Fulton County. The owners of Browns Oak Ridge Zoo are not facing federal charges for their purchase of endangered species from Joe Exotic. For full disclosure, I have been to this zoo before. Now, just moments ago, I spoke to the woman that was bit in that reported lemur bite. She says it was both painful and stressful as she was with her 3-year-old daughter. She described the conditions in cages for the animals as horrid. For online extras, look for this story at hyabc.com.